Tampa General Hospital and USF Health Morsani College of Medicine are bringing the power of academic medicine to Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast. For nearly 2 decades, Tampa General has been ranked as one of the nation's best hospitals. And for over 50 years, Tampa General has been Florida's leading academic health system. Learn more about their growing network of physicians at tgh.org/the Palm Beaches. All right, so welcome back to the Palm Beach North Podcast. I'm your host, Noel Martinez, and today I am excited to have Nathan Green here, Vice Chancellor of Vanderbilt University. We're going to talk about bringing one of the country's top universities to right here in Palm Beach. We're going to dive into why Vanderbilt chose Palm Beach County to be here, talk a little bit about the impact it's going to have on our economy, our workforce, our future. We're going to get to know Nathan a little bit, and I really want to get behind the vision on why Vanderbilt is what it is. So Nathan, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome. So let's start with you, Nathan. I said that earlier to you. I want people to get to know you a little bit. You've got a very interesting story as well. Let's start with your role. Tell me about your role and what your day-to-day looks like.
So I'm Vice Chancellor of Government Community Relations. You would say that I'm kind of part of the executive leadership team at the university. We have different divisions and they're headed by a vice chancellor. You know, in our role as a community partner and as a leading research university, we have to be engaged with our government officials and with our community. And so I've got 30 in-house dedicated professionals. It's about half and half. I actually have a little bit more on the community engagement side than I do on the GR side, government relations. And our job is to engage, to advance and protect the mission of the university. And in doing that, we try to find those common areas where we can collaborate. And, you know, the story behind Vanderbilt and Nashville is an interesting one. We're 151 years old. Well, you know, we've contributed to the vibrancy of Nashville and to its growth, but we've benefited from Nashville being a very progressive and open place where creatives for many, many years, you know, people have pursued their dreams in songwriting and others, you know, to come to Nashville to be a part of Music City. But now it's not just the creative people and the songwriters, it's the creative entrepreneurs and the others that are part of that ecosystem. And, you know, for the type of university that we are, that really resonates. So we want to be embedded in the community. We're, for lack of a better term, an anchor institution in Nashville. So with that comes some responsibilities and obligations, but also a lot of opportunities. And my job and my team's job is to find ways to partner and to make Nashville better, make the state of Tennessee better. We're a great partner for the state of Tennessee. And I tell people a lot about this is that if you take we're two separate entities right now, but we have a medical center, and then Vanderbilt University Medical Center is one of the largest hospital systems and affiliated systems in the United States. But we're two separate entities. They have their own team. We have our own team. But if you take the VU brand, which the average citizen basically just says Vanderbilt, right? Because they're on our campus and all that. If you took the entire VU brand, we're the second largest private employer in the state of Tennessee, second only to FedEx. We just did we do a economic impact study, you know, every 2 years and so forth. And so our economic impact is like $20 billion to the state of Tennessee. So we're not just the average, you know, if there is such thing as an average research institution, you know, of about 13,000 people in a growing city. We are really an economic engine. So you got to have a team that knows how to coordinate that and to advance that. And so I have a team, federal, state, and local. And my job was to develop the relationship down here. I mean, it's a great idea. I do that. I was in D.C. for the last several months on a regular basis dealing with our federal delegation and with the One Big Beautiful Bill and all the other stuff that goes with that. I'm fortunate that our university is in the state capital. So I'm literally 5 minutes away from our state capital, and we engage as a credible partner. And then we spend a lot of time working with our mayor. all the time on a lot of different issues. And what I've learned in this process is that a lot of the same challenges that we have in Nashville are very similar to the same challenges here for Palm Beach County. Transit, affordability, schools, how do we take advantage of the economic opportunities that are out there? How do we better leverage and align strategically into a plan that we can all understand where we're going and be a part of its progress? And that's very, very similar to what we're dealing with in Nashville. So my job is to lead the division, but also to be that chief advocate. So I do that, and I do that on the front lines. Was in lobbying before, had my own state government relations firm, of which Vanderbilt was a client of our firm. So most of my adult life, I've been an advocate. I've been a lobbyist and have worked for a number of different companies. And to be a part of something now where it's mission oriented and I can be so impactful and know that when I get up in the morning that I'm going to be helping somebody. And there's some 80, I think the last count was 83 nonprofits in the Middle Tennessee region that we in some way are partnering with. My community engagement team is outstanding. That's a cool thing. That's the kind of thing that gets you up early in the morning because you're really going to be impactful. And so that's what I do. I got a great gig.
So I think you touched on it a little bit, right? But we all have a why, right? And
yeah.
You are a very passionate guy. Like you tons of energy. What is your why? What really gets you jazzed up?
Well, it's interesting. I think just being impactful, helping people and being a part of something. I mean, you can professionally get really motivated about, doing something that other people can't do. I think one of the things, and I'm not familiar with Florida liquor laws the way I am Tennessee, but one of the things I did before I went in-house was I led an effort that literally could not get done for literally 15 years. And that is the ability for us to sell wine in liquor stores. And I represented the grocery stores who were an advocate for that. And the challenge of putting together a team and leading that, even as a contract lobbyist, was very appealing to me. But, my original roots are from West Tennessee and working for a county mayor who in that county government, Shelby government in the Memphis area, really provided a lot of urban level services. So even though I worked for a county mayor, which I think being a mayor and working for a mayor is probably the best political job because you're just on the front lines. You really see the results of all this hard work. And, I was the guy that took a traffic study that was going to take 8 months and turn it into 4 weeks. And I saw the results of that. And I saw the people who were responsive and appreciative of a government that works and that's efficient and all that. And so that really drove me. I really enjoyed that. And then you go out and you make money and you set up your own private business and you're impactful. But part of the appeal here was that I was going back to an organization that has a mission bigger than myself. And I just, I think I have a self-awareness. I think all good lobbyists do to kind of understand where you are. I think I became self-aware that I do my best work in that type of environment. And so that's what I do. And it's just great. And I couldn't work for a better organization.
So let's get into Vanderbilt. What do we have to know? What do Palm Beach County residents really need to know about Vanderbilt University?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, we're a leader in higher education. I think you're seeing a greater debate, and you can't turn on the television and watch Fox News or CNN or whatever, wherever you get your news, that, higher education and higher education institutions at times are not operating in their traditional model that we came out of World War II to do. They're not being a partner for public policymakers in the advancement of American excellence, whether it's in research, whether it's in all the other things. And frankly, our Chancellor, Daniel Diemeyer, is a national leader in trying to make sure that universities are engaging in the way that it should to be that type of true partner. And we would just have and continue to have internal discussions with some of our colleagues. Some universities have turned into political caucuses, and universities don't need to take a position. It is our belief that universities don't need to take a position on every social issue. And our chancellor is a national leader for institutional neutrality, which means unless it directly impacts the mission of this university, Vanderbilt University is not going to take a position. We're going to support our community, But first of all, people don't really care what our position is. And second of all, our job in higher education is to create an environment where people of different opinions who are trying to find themselves and their place in the world can be comfortable advancing their position, but yet be respectful of someone who disagrees with them. That's the civil discourse and free expression that we're known for. It's called the Vanderbilt way. And these principles are very important. And we have other like WashU and Emory and Rice that are partners in that regard. WashU's been a great partner with us. Our board of trust adopted and put into our bylaws these foundational things. And when we engage and bring freshmen onto our campus, we make it clear to them that they are a part of a community for the rest of their life, but that we want them to understand the role that they're playing in this process. And we want them to find themselves. And so I think, one, people need to understand that Vanderbilt, within higher education itself, within that internal discussion, is trying to be a leader to restore American universities to its proper place. We've sort of lost our way. And we need to do a better job of that. I think the other thing I'd like people to understand about Vanderbilt University is we are a top research university that does impactful research, not phony research, but impactful research that makes our lives better. We tell people all the time, if you want to beat Russia and China and you want to find a cure for cancer, you need to be a partner of Vanderbilt University, because that's what we're about. We have in our same congressional district, less than 100 miles away from Nashville, Fort Campbell, on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. We were fortunate that our federal delegation in Congress approved funding for a Pathfinder program, which is, in essence, a research program that we are the lead on with, and we bring soldiers in and they tell us what their battlefield problems are and challenges, whether it takes too long to disassemble a tent, where the fact is that they're having back injuries because people are having to pick up 70-pound shells, artillery teams. They're not as mobile. All these other things. These are practical problems that soldiers are telling us make them less efficient. And we bring our researchers together and we go through this process and we come up with a special hammer that helps take down their tents faster. We have a program now that you can, a product called the exoskeleton, which is kind of elastic bands, but kind of in a vest that you can click a button and it will allow you to pick up 10 times what your capacity is, which reduces the strain on soldiers' backs and so forth. That research project, in partnership with the United States Army up at Fort Campbell, led to us commercializing that property. And now corporations for their warehouses and other type of workers can buy that in a Walmart. And so it's practical research that makes the world better. And those two things, most people may not know about Vanderbilt, but that we are a leader in higher education, and we do really, really impactful research that in some ways has impacted the average citizen.
Strategically, where's the university going? I mean, what are some big moves that are coming up?
Well, we think West Palm Beach is a pretty big move.
Oh, I think so.
We think that's important in the process. And I think when you say, what's the big move? I think for us, our North Star is that we want to define what the top university in the 21st century is, and we want to be it. And one, restore back to that traditional partnership, but two, do it in a way that might have a growth mindset. Three, have that growth mindset align with what are our rights to win. We're really good at certain areas of research, and we're positioning to be good in other areas of research, but there are certain areas that we're not, that there are other universities are. So we're not going to be something that we're not. We're going to embrace the strengths that we are. We want to constantly be pushing the envelope. And so I think for us, that growth mindset, we don't really know how to define that. We just know it when we see it. And for us, we wanted to enhance and develop and improve our already highly respected business schools. So how do we do that? Well, we want to change and strengthen and enhance the offerings that we have on the finance side. Well, we want to do that, but we also, a university that's cutting edge and is the university of the 21st century, needs to train people for the jobs of 10 and 15 years from now, not today. So what are those jobs in finance? They're fintech, AI, data analytics. And so, all right, that's what we want to do. And so how do we do that? Well, for a business school to really be kind of fundamentally connected and successful, it's got to be embedded into the community. Nashville, And Oracle's latest move here several years ago confirms it. It's the healthcare management capital of the world. I mean, you look at what Vanderbilt Medical Center and HCA and community health systems and all that. So if you're a young man and woman and you want to get into healthcare management and get your MBA, Vanderbilt's where you want to be. Why? Because you want to be in Nashville. Because the opportunity, internships, and all that create. So when we looked at fintech, AI, data analytics, and all that stuff, and we looked at the ecosystem for Nashville, and we said it's just not mature enough. If it was, we would just expand in Nashville. But we looked, and we had been on the growth mindset of evaluating things, and we saw that the ecosystem down here and the number of businesses that were moving down here and the potential partnerships and pipelines that could be created from that, this was a no-brainer. So if it's aligned, if it fits into our right to win, then yeah, we're going to be receptive to these growth opportunities. And so that mindset is driving us today. Now, at the same time, we can't lose the identity. As great of a university Arizona State is, they have these great online offerings, and they got this, and they're, public university with all this great offerings that they have. They're a great model for American universities. That's not our model. So we don't want to lose our character as a university that has a certain number of students with an understanding of the grad element, maybe 50-50, maybe 60-40, but that's really heavy on the research. And yes, we want to do online offerings more in a more aggressive way that is tailored to the needs of a growing workforce. But we're never going to use that as a basis to double the size of our university. So figuring that out, Noel, is really important for us. And I think we have a university president who was at Stanford as a professor when Silicon Valley blew up. He saw the important role of a university in a growing ecosystem. He goes to Northwestern and is a star lecturer and professor in the Kellogg School of Management, goes to Chicago, becomes the head of their policy school, then becomes provost, and then now he can walk in a room and see the really legit universities that are really cutting edge and see the ones that are pretending. And so having him as our leader is really, really important in being able to open up and see these opportunities. But if someone were to say, well, what's your, where are you guys going? What's your plan? I think it's an aggressive plan with a growth mindset. Now, besides West Palm Beach, and we have a little campus that we've created in New York City because we have a large alumni base there. Other than that, we don't know what that means. We just know that it's going to be based on our rights to win, and it's going to be aligned with who we are and our values.
So let's get into West Palm. Why West Palm? You could have taken this anywhere else, right? Anywhere else in the country. What makes West Palm Beach different than other cities, other municipalities, other regions? Well,
I think, first of all, it's those industries, those specialized industries that are moving here. And it's also, and look, this community is attractive because of the existing universities and colleges that we have here who are really doing a great job. We didn't, at no time did we come into this community and say, hey, we're here to kind of save Palm Beach. Hell, we're here because this is where we want to be. So we want to be a collaborative partner, and we want to find our role. And as we say a lot, weave our way into the fabric of the community. So there was already an existing strong higher education focus. A lot of the businesses on the business side, and this is a business school play. This is MBA, and we're going to have young men and women who are going to want to go into that field, and they're going to choose, no, I'm not going to go to Nashville. I'm going to go to West Palm Beach because that's where the pipelines are. That's where the interns are. That's where the opportunities are. And so when you looked at these different communities and you saw it, that this was really kind of a no-brainer. They had a mature ecosystem that we could tie into. The other thing is that we were already kind of looking in this part of the country already. Now, why is that? It's because if you go into a growth mindset and you really look at what's happening, really for the first time in the first time in the history of this country, the region known as like Texas, Nashville, a little bit of Atlanta, and a lot of South Florida. Let's just call it the Sun Belt region, okay? Instead of being Southeast. Let's just call it, even though Texas is in the SEC now. That region's GDP, for the first time in the history of this country, is the largest GDP of any other region in the United States. It's where all the capital, it's where all the talent's going. Now, you've seen that for a while. We saw it to some degree in Nashville, but when you really look at it from a regional standpoint, you go, well, here's where the action is. And then you zero in a little bit more about West Palm Beach, and we had some alums that were telling us about some stuff. when you line everything up, it was kind of a no-brainer. And so, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of money to raise. We're a private institution, but we're off to a strong start, but we still got some work to do. But we're really excited about the opportunity here. And it didn't take us long to warm to the idea.
Tell me a little bit about what it was like working with city and county leaders to make this happen, right? Because this doesn't happen by itself. The private and public sector have to come together to make deals like this work. So tell me about that. Tell me a little bit about the story behind it. Was it easy? Was it hard? Tell me more.
So first of all, when we had an event, we had our board of trust down here, maybe earlier in the year or late last year. I can't remember. Things move along. When you spend a lot of time in DC, you lose sight of track of time and everything. But we were down there and we said, what really matters in huge partnerships and collaborations is that people have got to realize that there's a mutual benefit, and it takes two to tango, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so, one, there was a receptivity, and a lot of that had to do with the University of Florida had a similar plan, and it kind of maybe made the ground a little bit fertile for us. Our plan was a little different than their plan. So the concept wasn't completely formed. Now, we're a private institution. They were state's flagship institution and all that. There were some pros and some cons to them, pros and cons to us. But I think it wasn't like totally off the wall, because there had been a little bit of a baking of this idea, at least the concept. And so that was helpful to us. I think, secondly, there was kind of a realization on the part of the local leaders that, this kind of makes sense, and that we do have the ability to kind of invest in the community. We do have the ability to raise the money and to make this thing a reality. And we do and have shown a great understanding of a proper role of a university that's engaged in a community and committed to making the community better and not just advancing their own interests. So I think the table was set pretty good, first of all.
Yep.
And then secondly, we just had leaders that were really receptive to saying, okay, what's it going to take? Now, we had to negotiate, and we had to get approval from both the city and the county commission on that. I've said this publicly several times. I think the city and the county and the two administrations were very tough but fair. Had taxpayers' interests in mind from the very beginning. And frankly, if we're moving into this community and become a part of this community, we want to have that same kind of representation as well. And so it made us feel really good about moving into this community, because we had leaders that were really focused on the big picture. They understood, but they were really interested in making sure that it's a good deal for the taxpayers and it's a good deal for us. You find me partners like that, I can do business with them. And so it just was, it was a great process. And so, our colleagues at the University of Florida had their own pathway and own concept that they had to do. I think they got it to a certain point, and took them 19 months, but because of just the receptivity and the leadership of local leaders, we were able to get this thing done in about 6 months.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that is really a credit to the local community. And we are so appreciative and so indebted to the commitment that the community has made to us. And it motivates us to get this thing done and to live up to what we say we're going to do.
Let's talk about the community and the economic impact that it's going to have on our community, right? $7 billion with a B over 25 years, potentially $25 billion long-term.
Yeah.
What drives numbers like that?
Well, a lot of that is just investments in general. And then secondly, it's the type of investments that you're making and the return that it gets back and gets turned over into the community. And we've got 4 or 5. When we do economic impact studies, either in the Nashville area or in this particular case here, we always go with a third party who's a respected economist. We throw all the data. We show here's what we're going to invest. And then they look at the economic impact and so forth. Labor environment in South Florida is quite different than it is in Middle Tennessee, as it might be in Texas or in Ohio or whatever. Oh, yeah. And so having that perspective really is important in getting realistic ideas. But we intend to raise and ultimately invest $1 billion in 10 years in this community. I mean, just blink of an eye. And so when you look at the impact that has, the type of investments that we're making, the type of graduate school, the amount of spend that visitors and that students will play, the type of businesses that will ultimately want to be located around such a campus in a vibrant community like this, create that that economic dynamo effect, and is which represented in those numbers. The other thing, and we pushed out long-term impacts because one, that they look better, but two, we're a research university. We think in 50-year increments. I mean, you know, they're one of the top sayings of someone said, well, how do you build a vibrant community? It's like, well, either build or relocate a research university and wait 50 years. Because, and I know Northwestern did a study that said that, Harvard did a study that basically said for every dollar that a university spends in a community, the community gets an 80 cents return back on their dollar, not quite one for one. Well, research universities, because of the nature of the space, because of the investment of the equipment, the type of work being done, the type of partners that generate off of that, for every dollar that a research university spends, the community gets $5 back. It's a good deal.
Yeah, it's not a bad deal.
It's a really good deal. And so that's part of why research universities are really important to America's future and why it's so important that they return back to their traditional American role of being the type of partner in a community that creates an economic success, that finds solutions to tomorrow, that finds cures to disease, that allows America to be a stronger at home and abroad. That's our role. And if the water gets muddy in that process, then everybody starts getting, kind of confused about what the roles are. That's not what we would do at Vanderbilt. And I think we understand the role we play as an economic engine. And we understand that. The other thing is that we respectfully take offense to the satellite campus reference because it's not a satellite campus. We refer to it as a second campus. The level of investment we're making here and the quality of building that we're going to build, the level of the quality of faculty, all of that, as this project goes forward, is going to be at the same level we do on our home campus in Nashville. It's not a satellite. Should not be perceived that way. And again, young men and women who are deciding where they want to get that Vanderbilt MBA are going to decide that in large ways from the pathway of where they want to go. And if it's on finance, there's a huge chance they're going to come to West Palm Beach. And that degree is going to be the same degree, that MBA that they're going to get, that they would get in Nashville. And we're committed to that. That's our model. And so that's kind of the background behind a lot of the economic numbers.
So I love that. I want to talk a little bit more about the second campus and what it's going to look like. But before we do that, why don't we take a short little break? We'll be right back. Let's take a quick break to spotlight one of the summer's most anticipated events, the Tampa General Hospital Loggerhead Triathlon, happening August 23rd in Jupiter. For the fourth year in a row, TGH returns as our presenting sponsor, continuing its commitment to health, fitness, and community. Their support powers one of Palm Beach North's most iconic athletic traditions, drawing athletes and fans together in celebration of endurance and wellness. As a healthcare leader and dedicated community partner, TGH reminds us that health doesn't start in a hospital. It starts in the community. Events like this triathlon promote active lifestyles, connection, and a shared commitment to well-being. We're proud to have Tampa General Hospital championing this triathlon once again. On behalf of the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce, thank you so much for your continued support. All right, so let's talk about this beautiful campus, right? Because I've had the opportunity to see some renderings of it. So what's this campus going to look like? How big is it going to be? What's coming first?
Well, 300,000 square feet is what our plan is. And it took us a little while to get to that particular point, but we were able to kind of find what we feel like is a really good representation of our values. We think that the look of the renderings, and you can go on our webpage and type in West Palm Beach campus, and there's all kind of pictures of it and all that kind of stuff if people want to take a look at it. Our campus in Nashville is an officially certified arboretum. It's like a park. It's a great place to work. And so when we really saw the current property, we saw where it's located, we saw the vibrancy of downtown, we saw all the stuff there, we wanted to kind of tie into that arboretum looks. There's a lot of greenery, a lot of glass, but this is going to be a very functional building for us. 300,000 square feet, over 1,000 students when we're fully operational, and about 110 to 115 faculty members.
Tell me a little bit about the programs. You talked about that earlier, right? Finance, AI.
There's a master's in engineering too, kind of the fintech kind of aspect to it as well. It's more of a business school play, but there is an engineering aspect. Long term, if we were to ever to kind of look at how we would grow, is to figure out what the needs were of employers in the community, maybe adapt to some of the offerings. But we're really interested. We're not, we're not too far from the Space Coast, and Blue Origin's CEO is an alum, and we're looking at, is there a way that we can? So there is an engineering school aspect to it. It's not as large as the business school initially, but it could grow into that. And then we'll work with the local community toward the creation of an innovation hub. We have one in Nashville. It's called the Wondery. And so that hub is actually a center place. It's a place where venture capitalists and students and creators and others can join together, figure out partnerships, ways to to get things funded and so forth like that. We also use our innovation hub in Nashville, the Wondery, as almost like an urban lab. And I know there's been members of local government that have said, because we play an important role and do some quite a bit of research in mobility and transit across the country, been a lead on a couple of those things. We're a great significant partner with Metro Nashville's government in laying out new communities and where fireplaces go. It's all data driven now. How can we make the city more efficient? And so we've used the Wondery as kind of an urban lab facilitating place where we bounce ideas off of each other about just thinking outside the box of ways that we can solve some of these problems. A lot of the challenges that Nashville has, I keep hearing are coming up in these discussions here. Growing cities, these are good problems to have, but they're still problems and they're challenges that we have to deal with. So there's not anything that really surprises. We're like, oh yeah, we have to deal with that too. Oh yeah. That's something that our community's working on. And so we'd like to kind of embed that innovation hub into it. And that could be a joint creation with other partners here locally. It can't be what we're doing in Nashville. It's got to be something that fits the needs of the community and is tied into our ecosystem down here.
Who are the students that are going to be attending the school? Like, who are you guys trying to attract?
Well, I mean, clearly, you've got a transportation system with the Bright Line and others where we could pull a lot of people from Miami. We'd like to pull some local people here as well. But frankly, this is an MBA program that will be appealing to any student in the United States that wants to go where the action is. And where is the action? The action and the employers are down here. So why don't I go to a top respected university, get my MBA, do an internship program, and then go to work for them in a state that's a great place to do business in? So our student, you will always, on executive education programs, will do the full range of that. You will always have a little bit of that regional South Florida, mid Florida kind of pull to come here to get an MBA. But a lot of our students are going to come from all over the country.
So from a academic side, that's super exciting, right? You talk a lot about Vanderbilt being part of the local fabric. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about connecting with the community. How do you plan to plug in our local schools with K through 12 and our local colleges? Yeah.
So we've talked with the local education system at great length. We have a good relationship with Metro schools. This morning, I met with several of the principals of the schools around where our campus is going to be located because we have a special relationship with the public schools around us. And we want to have that same kind of special relationship with them. I think that the key here for us, and I've been really upfront and transparent about this, is that we want to, at least initially, when we come down here, to do something that's very similar to what we're doing now. So when we hear about, literacy is a real problem, we partner with the Literacy Council, and we've talked to the Literacy Council here. In many ways, early on, it could be more efficient for us in helping our local schools to partner with a nonprofit that is partnering with the local schools on something that we can all agree really is moving the needle and is really successful. And so that's part of weaving our way into the community is we don't want to get in the way. There's a lot of good stuff that's happening here. I mean, there's a lot of problem solvers in this community. It's why it's so appealing to us. So what is our role and where do we fit? And how can we be supportive? And so we're really still trying to figure that out just by learning stuff about the community, having a lot of dialogue, kind of thinking, but that sounds just like what we do with this particular program here. And so I think our education system is really important. We're always looking for ways to collaborate with our other higher education institutions, and that's an ongoing process. We've had several members of the county commission that have asked us to consider embracing the urban lab concept and working. So we're really now just starting. I mean, there's a lot of mayors in this county, yes. And so a lot of communities that are really vibrant. So it's like, well, we need to start the dialogue, and so. We move pretty quickly, but we also, when it really gets down to putting these things together, we want to identify need. We want to find out how we can be added value, not get in the way. And two, then once we have consensus, we want to execute in a very, very effective way. And so I think we're still trying to fill ourselves out, just where we are, where we fit, and what are the real challenges going forward. And it's vast. We've made a commitment we have a regional impact, as I told you about our statewide impact in Tennessee. We want to have that regional impact. I will honestly tell you, when we made those public commitments that we intend to live up to, I don't think we were 100% aware of just how vast this county is. Yeah, it's pretty big. Yeah. And I'll be in the Glades tomorrow morning meeting with people. I mean, and so finding our way to have an impact, it's not going to happen overnight, but we're committed to it for the long haul.
Workforce development. What does that look like through Vanderbilt's lens?
Well, first of all, workforce development can't be done by one entity. It's got to be done in a partnership. So from our standpoint, and for many years, Vanderbilt was kind of like, oh yeah, we're workforce development is really important to a community because, we're a large employer and we can't always find talented people to work for us. It's almost like we didn't think our DNA allowed us to go across on the other side of the balance sheet and actually be an active participant. That's changed. And in Nashville, we work with our community colleges. We work with employers. You have to be tied into what are the needs of employers out there. What are what the opportunities? I mean, every time when Amazon came or when all these other large employers came to the Nashville area, it was a discussion about what are your talent needs? What does that look like? What are the degree offerings that we have? How fast do you need these people on, in the workforce? And so when you realize all that, it's as great as Vanderbilt is, it can't do it by itself. So the first thing is let's identify all the partners. And there's active engagement on that already in this community. So finding out what's happening, finding out what the needs are of the community, and then, all right, this is where we can help. We have a saying in Nashville that any great endeavor that happens in the Nashville area, there is someone from Vanderbilt sitting at the table. That's the role we play in that community. Now, we don't have to be sitting at the end of the table, but we need to be at the table. And because we want to be there and because we have a sense of obligation to be there. And that's the role that we play in Nashville. And I think ultimately that may be the role that we play there. We're not assuming that we're going to sit at the head of the table, but we'd like to have a seat at the table to find out how we can collaborate. So when you talk about workforce development, it's got to be a partnership. It's got to be because one person can't solve all those problems. And two, it needs to be directly impacted into what are the jobs that we have here? I use that phrase, right to win. What are the things that this community is really known for? And there's a lot of this Wall Street, South thing. What does that actually mean? And what are the jobs not that are needed today, but are needed 10 years from now? Because there is an immediate kind of retraining and re-aspect. You've got people that are looking for skills that are looking for, maybe full employment. A lot of people come down here. Seasonal people come down here. There's a tourism aspect to that, just like there is to Nashville. And so if someone wants something a little bit more meaningful, that wants to move into some other type of job, what are the skills that they will need to have based upon what they have now that they need to improve on? And identifying that and creating through mass partnerships, programs that really we can track and see how we're making progress on. And so again, as an outsider coming in here and trying to find our place, it's just trying to figure that out. And, talking to local leaders, talking to Palm Beach State College and other higher education institutions is vital for us to find our place.
So all this is great, but none of this happens without a strong backing, right?
Yeah.
You need some funding.
We do. We're a private institution. We're not going to Tallahassee and asking for money. So that's not what we do in Tennessee. It's not what we're going to do here. And so we've got to raise the money.
How much? $520 million capital campaign right now, right?
So we will break ground. We've made it publicly clear, and our board has directed us that we will break ground once we've raised $300 million, and we're about a third of the way there. And so we asked for a little bit of a runway from our local leaders. We understand the dips and the cliffs of economic times in communities all across the United States. There's good times, there's bad times, and it impacts your giving. We raise money all the time, but we've got some money to raise. We're off to a really strong start. We're really happy about that. But, if there's anybody out there looking to give to the office and to the vision, we're more than willing to talk to them.
Of course you are. Of course. So let's talk about fundraising, because it's got to be different in Nashville than it is here in Palm Beach County. So what's the difference? Are you seeing any differences?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're asking them for a little bit of a different mission. For our standpoint, a lot of what we do when we're raising money, it's buy into the residential college, buy into the concept we have for undergraduate education, buy into the infrastructure, the type of buildings that we have, the residential colleges that we just completed a phase along a major thoroughfare of Nashville where we reside, where multiple buildings, we had a construction project of $675 million. And that we did over a span of several years. And you're constantly renovating. Tearing down a residential college now and building a new one this year. And so that's a little bit of a different play. Here, we're building a building, but we're also building a concept of going into new fertile ground and finding our niche into that process. And it's not as difficult, but it's a different way to ask for money if you're asking for a graduate school program than when you are before. And so from our standpoint, we've had a lot of receptivity from the people who would benefit the most of us being here. That are the businesses, and that are the people that are here that see having that talent along with the other great talent that the other universities provide as being a value added. And so getting them to invest in those are our targets.
Talk to me a little bit about the timeline, right? So construction, delivery timeline, what groundbreaking, when will students be walking in the doors?
Yeah, we originally thought that one of the things that we would try to do is do like an online presence in the fall of 26, working with our licensure organization. And that was just too aggressive. It just was too aggressive. And so we're still kind of figuring out that there's an in-class aspect to it. So we're having, while we're raising money for our project and while we would begin constructing the campus, we would have some online offerings, but we still have an in-campus model that's very important to us that we believe in. And so working that out has to be done before we would go to our friends and regulators in Tallahassee with the licensure thing. So, getting the sequencing right is really important. And we came out and we said, fall 26, we think that'll work. And we just weren't ready. We weren't ready. And we want to do these partnerships right. So I think we're being a little bit more careful about how we do that. That's the sequencing. But the actual time frame, we're letting that kind of play out a little bit more. I think the longer we get into this year and we get down toward the calendar year, we'll have a little bit more meat on the bone to be able to communicate that more with the community.
So what does success look like for Vanderbilt? What are those markers?
Well, one, we want to have a vibrant campus that is respected and that fits into the community that we have. Two, we want to be meeting our academic model, and that is we want to be engaging local leaders, local universities, and local employers in advancing these academic offerings that are so important to us. Three, we want to find our place and weave ourselves into the fabric of the community where we are a reliable, transparent, dependable partner for West Palm Beach and Palm Beach County.
Tell me a little bit about, so Nashville's legacy, it runs deep. How do you maintain that legacy, coming into a new market like West Palm Beach?
Yeah.
That's got to be difficult.
Well, that's a good question. We invest in that legacy and in that community at the same time we're investing here. We announced about a year ago a partnership with Mayor O'Connell, Freddie O'Connell, the mayor of Nashville, the National Innovation Alliance, which we felt was an important thing for the university, a leading research in the community to take the leadership role on, like Carnegie Mellon did in Pittsburgh, like University of Chicago's done in Chicago, and other universities have done. Wake Forest did that in Winston-Salem when all the tobacco places went down and they created an innovation district. We've made a huge announcement that we are redeveloping a significant amount of our campus that is parking lots and other support mechanism for either our medical center or for our athletic facilities. And we're going to create an innovation district. And that innovation district will be a neighborhood. And we're going through the entitlement program. So the people in Nashville say, wow, that's really cool what you guys are doing in West Palm Beach. but they also see what we're doing. We're doubling down into our hometown of Nashville. And the models are slightly different, but we're excited about connecting the two communities. We think that there's a lot of connectivity that needs to happen. We think that this region needs to be doing more of that. We learn from each other quite a bit. But how do we connect, and how do we help you guys with a connection to Nashville, and how can Nashville be better at what they're trying to do by the wonderful connections that we're making down in this community? So we see it as kind of part of the overall plan, but at the same time, we haven't turned our back on Nashville. We're spreading more chips on the table, and we're reinvesting into the community. I don't think there's really anybody in Nashville that thinks that we're playing less of a role. They're saying, wow, Vanderbilt's stepping up and leaning in as about as much as they've ever historically done, while at the same time pursuing these growth efforts. It's our mothership. It's always going to be our mothership. And that role that we have and have had for 151 years is something that we cherish and that we very much appreciate. And there's a way to build upon that actually will strengthen our other partnerships.
Well, this has been great. I know I got to get you out of here, but anything we've forgotten? Anything I haven't brought up?
No, I think it's great to be here. It's good to be back. I know I've been kind of haven't been down here in several months because of other priorities, but this is a really important project. We're diligently raising the money. We feel, we're off to a strong start. We got some work to do, but we're just really excited about the future.
Where can people get more information on Vanderbilt?
Yeah, you can go to vanderbilt.edu and type in West Palm Beach, and there's a lot of information. There's pictures about our campus. There's pictures about our plan. There's a little bit of information about our timeline and so forth. And you can learn a lot about what else is going on at Vanderbilt University. And so it's a great resource, and I'd urge people to look at it.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time.
I just want to say you are a great partner and are a great partner in this effort. And you and your chamber really embrace this. And we really love coming up here to North Palm, and we want to spend more time up here. And it's just, there's a lot of synergy. And so I want to thank you for just being so supportive and open to this idea.
Thank you, Nathan. And we're really excited to have you here. It's a big deal to have Vanderbilt here in Palm Beach County, and we're really excited about it. I appreciate everything and all your support. To all our listeners, thank you so much. Please make sure to like, follow, share, tell all your friends about all the amazing things going on here in Palm Beach North, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.